All right, let's dive in. We're looking at a conflict today that's being fought on two totally different fronts. You've got riot shields on the streets, and then you have keyboards in cyberspace. This is the story of how a protest in Georgia went digital and very, very public.
And this was the message sent directly to Georgia's government by the hacktivist collective Anonymous. I mean, it doesn't get much clearer than that, right? A straight-up declaration of war? But this wasn't the beginning of the fight. This was the moment it exploded onto a whole new battlefield.
So to really get what's happening in the cyber war, we first have to understand the war on the ground. What is driving people into the streets in the first place? What are they up against? And it really is being fought on two separate fronts. On one side, you have the physical protests, people on the streets, face-to-face with state power. And then on the other, you've got this digital assault. It's invisible, but it's incredibly powerful, and it's aimed right at the government's core infrastructure.
For the protesters on the ground, the reality is just intense. They're fighting a bill they call the Russian law. Basically, they're terrified this legislation would force any media or nonprofits to register as foreign agents, which is a classic move to crush dissent, just like we've seen in Russia. And their reward for protesting? Violent crackdowns, being watched 24/7 by Chinese-made cameras that are hooked up to Russian servers, and for some young people, the threat of long prison sentences. Some are even saying the entire justice system is basically controlled by the ruling party.
So as that physical space for protest starts to shrink, that's when the second front just ignites. A totally different kind of resistance starts to mobilize online.
And the core idea we're talking about here is hacktivism. Just think of it like digital civil disobedience. So instead of a sit-in at a government building, you get a server takedown. It's protest, but it's been completely retold for the internet age. And, well, it's kind of Anonymous' specialty.
And Anonymous was super clear about their goals, right from the start. This wasn't just about creating some digital chaos for the fun of it. No, they wanted to directly support the protesters. They aimed to tear down government propaganda, expose secrets, and turn the internet into what they actually called a weapon of truth.
So what does this digital support actually look like in practice? This is where it gets really tactical, because this isn't just about shutting down a few websites. We're talking about a whole campaign built on strategic leverage.
In a public Twitter space, a member of Anonymous who goes by Spider pretty much laid out their whole playbook. They claim they used SQL injections, which is a pretty common hacking method, where you trick a database into spilling its secrets to get inside every single government ministry. They also messed with the capital city's public transport payment system and, get this, they used mass emails and phone spam to talk directly to protesters, completely bypassing any official government channels. And the scale of their access, it is absolutely staggering. As Spider claimed that Anonymous now has control over 1,200 government computers. And let's be clear, that's not just stealing some data, that's having a permanent foothold inside the government's own digital house. Okay, but this brings up a really crucial strategic question, right? If you're sitting on years of sensitive government data that could maybe expose all kinds of things, why wouldn't you just dump it all online at once?
And there's your answer, straight from the source. See, it's not about a one-time shock. It's about leverage. If they release everything at once, the government patches the vulnerability and poof, their access is gone. By holding on to the data, they maintain this constant looming threat, which you could argue is way more powerful.
But wait a minute. How do we even know all these tactical details? Well, they were all revealed in a public conversation. And the guy who hosted it, well, he plays a fascinating role in this whole story. It really shines a light on the high-stakes world of modern activism. The host, Alberto Daniel Hill, he's basically walking a tightrope here. By giving Anonymous a platform, he's building up all this credibility in cybersecurity and activist circles. But at the same time, he's also risking becoming a target for authorities who might not see him as a journalist, but as an accomplice. It's a huge gamble where both his reputation and his freedom are on the line.
So what's the real-world impact of a platform like that? One that's amplifying these attacks? Well, according to protesters in that same conversation, the government is trying to project this image of control, publicly dismissing the hacks. But privately, they say the government is terrified of this decentralized force that they just can't arrest or silence the way they can a street protester. When you take a step back, all of this really points to a fundamental shift. We are watching the evolution of dissent happen in real time, and it's raising some massive questions about what protest is even going to look like in the future.
Which leaves us with a critical question for our time. As governments get better and better at crushing physical dissent, is the main battlefield for freedom just shifting? Is it moving from the town square to the digital realm? And what happens when a protest can no longer be contained by barricades?